My mom tried to evict my boyfriend from our apartment while I was blowing out birthday candles. She meant to send the instructions to my sister. Instead, she texted my boyfriend. And what she exposed was 3 months of conspiracy, a backup ex-girlfriend paid in cash, and a mother who thought she was running some deranged matchmaking operation with my life as the prize. So yeah, buckle up. This is not a cute little family misunderstanding. My name is Ava Mercer. I'm 32 years old, and if there's one thing I know how to do, it's build something from nothing. I own a diesel repair shop in the suburbs outside Portland. Not a cute little side hustle, not a one-bay garage behind somebody's house. A full commercial facility, 6 bays, 3 full-time mechanics, diagnostic systems that cost more than some people's houses, and maintenance contracts with 4 logistics companies that need their trucks on the road more than they need sleep. I started turning wrenches when other girls were still trading glitter pens. At 16, I was in a school auto shop class because the counselor messed up my schedule. Best mistake of my life. While everyone else groaned about oil stains, I fell in love with the sound of an engine finally catching after you've chased a problem for hours. After high school, I went to trade school instead of a 4-year college like my mom wanted. She called it throwing away my potential. I called it not taking on $80,000 in debt to sit in lecture halls. For 6 years, I worked 60-hour weeks at someone else's shop. Nights, weekends, holidays. I skipped vacations, skipped nights out, skipped anything that didn't move me closer to owning my own place. By 24, I had scraped together $40,000 in savings. I found a foreclosed garage that needed about $30,000 of work, and a miracle. I took out a small business loan, worked my day job, then patched drywall, rewired lights, and scrubbed floors until 2 a.m. most nights. 3 months later, Mercer Diesel and Heavy Equipment Repair opened its doors. The first year was brutal. I slept on a cot in my office, ate gas station sandwiches more often than I care to admit. There were weeks when the only thing keeping me from crying was the fact that no one else was around to see it. But I knew Diesel. I knew Cummins, Duramax, Power Stroke. How they failed, how they lied to you, how they whispered the truth if you listened closely enough. And I cared more than most people twice my age. Word spread. The girl who'd show up at 2 a.m. to get a broken semi back on the road, that was me. I didn't just fix engines. I saved contracts, delivery windows, and driver's jobs. At 26, I hired my first mechanic. At 28, my second. At 30, my third. By the time I turned 31, I was clearing about $180,000 a year after expenses. Not billionaire money, but solid. Everything I had, I'd earned with busted knuckles and diesel under my nails. I bought a 2-bedroom, 2-bath apartment in a decent building for $285,000. Owned, not rented. The title is in my name, my signature on the paperwork, my down payment, my risk. I bought a 2019 Ram 3500 for work and kept my old F250 as my personal truck. Paid off, maintained by yours truly. I kept my personal finances completely separate from the business. I watched my uncle lose half his auto body shop in a divorce when I was a teenager. I promised myself that would never be me. Asset protection became my love language to myself. I'm not a genius. I'm not special. I'm just someone who learned early that no one is coming to rescue you, so you'd better learn how to turn the wrench yourself. Most mornings I'm up at 5:30 at the shop by 6 and still under a hood by 7 p.m. I don't buy designer bags. I don't take 2-week vacations to Bali. My money goes into my business, my apartment, and my future, which until recently very much included my boyfriend. His name is Ethan Cole, 31, and he's the kind of man who brings coffee without being asked and actually reads torque specs on the box instead of eyeballing it. We met 4 years ago at a friend's barbecue. I was there because my best friend, Tessa, said, "You work too much, Ava. You're starting to look like a before picture in a burnout brochure. Come eat grilled meat and talk to humans." Ethan was there because he'd done some IT work for Tessa's company and got dragged along. I noticed him because he was the only person not loudly bragging about something. He made a dry joke about the Bluetooth speaker cutting out like it had commitment issues, and I choked on my soda laughing. We ended up in a corner, talking about nothing important for 2 hours. He worked in network security for a mid-sized firm downtown, made a solid salary, and had the kind of calm, grounded energy that made my brain quiet down. Our first date was burgers and beer at a place with sticky tables and great fries. We argued about whether the Seahawks' defense was actually declining or just getting old. He said declining. I said getting old. We were both half right. The relationship was normal, in the best way. Weekend movie nights, grocery runs, splitting the bill without keeping score. He never made weird comments about me owning the shop or making more money sometimes. He was proud of me, not threatened. That mattered a lot. Ethan moved into my apartment after about 18 months. He left his studio rental and moved into the place I already owned. I didn't ask him to pay a fake mortgage. I just asked him to cover half the utilities and groceries, about $400 a month. We split dates, trips, little luxuries pretty evenly. It worked. 2 years in, he proposed, not with a flash mob or a billboard, just us, on a hiking trail near Mount Hood, hands cold, cheeks windburned, and a simple ring he'd saved up for. White gold, a solid diamond, nothing ostentatious, but beautiful. I said yes before he finished the question. We started planning a small wedding, maybe 80 people, something low-key near the river. I pictured my mom crying happy tears in the front row. Instead, she started planning my boyfriend's replacement. The thing about my mom is, she likes control the way I like torque wrenches. She grew up poor, married my dad young, and never forgave the universe for making her life small. She works part-time at a dental office now, has a perfectly respectable life in Arizona, and spends her free time watching HGTV and sending me articles titled 10 Signs Your Partner is Using You. At first, her questions about Ethan sounded like normal mom worries. Does he treat you right? Are you sure he's not threatened by your success? Maybe you should talk to a lawyer about a prenup, just in case. I didn't mind the prenup comment. Honestly, I'd already talked to a lawyer. I believe in love. I also believe in contracts. But then the comments shifted. Little digs about how comfortable Ethan seemed with me paying for most big expenses, even though that wasn't true. Passive-aggressive remarks about how men sometimes settle in when they find a woman who already has everything set up. A nice apartment, a successful business, a safety net they didn't build. She'd say things like, I just don't want you to wake up one day and realize you've become someone's retirement plan. I'd roll my eyes, tell her to relax, that Ethan made his own money and paid his share. She'd smile that tight little mom smile and say, Mother's intuition, Ava. I can always tell when something's off. I should have paid more attention to those conversations. I should have noticed how her calls got more frequent after we got engaged, how her questions got more invasive about our finances, about who was paying for the wedding, about whether Ethan's family was contributing. Every time I said, we've got it handled, she'd say something like, that's nice, but don't let him coast on your hard work. At the time, I thought she was being overprotective, maybe a little bitter about her own marriage. I figured she'd calm down once she met Ethan more, saw us together more. Instead, my engagement flipped a switch in her. In her head, this wasn't my relationship anymore. It was a problem to solve. My 32nd birthday was supposed to be a celebration of everything I'd built, a thriving shop, a home I owned, a man I loved, and a future that finally felt stable. It was the night my mom launched Project Ethan, and it was the night she pressed send on the wrong Madison and blew up her own plan. If you'd asked me a year ago, I would have told you my life finally made sense in a spreadsheet kind of way. Work, apartment, savings, relationship. All the columns lined up. Ethan and I slipped into each other's lives slowly, almost boringly. Boring is underrated, by the way, especially after what came next. The first year together was solid. We did normal couple stuff. Weekends at the coast when I could pry myself away from the shop. Cheap motel rooms that smelled like industrial cleaner and ocean salt. Burgers after my late shifts. Takeout on his couch when he'd had a brutal week patching security holes in other people's broken infrastructure. He met Tessa and her husband Luke early on. That mattered to me. Tessa has known me since trade school. She's the one who watched me sleep on a cot in the shop and drag myself back up when the loan payments were due and the work wasn't flowing yet. She helped me scrub grease off the floor on opening night. She brought me coffee the morning my first fleet client signed their contract. She's also the only person who will look me dead in the eye and say, "You're being an idiot," without flinching. When I first told her about Ethan, she raised an eyebrow and said, "If he can't handle you owning a shop and swearing at bolts, throw him back." He passed her test within 2 brunches. He didn't flinch at my hours, didn't pout when I had to bail on plans because a logistics company needed an emergency repair. He'd just say, okay, is it a come by with food situation or a leave you alone to fix it situation? And adapt. I didn't realize how rare that was until later. Meeting his family went fine. His parents are the kind of people who bring potato salad in glass dishes with matching lids and ask polite questions about your work without fishing for a status report. Meeting my family was different. My dad, for the record, is a quiet, kind man who spent most of my childhood working overtime and fixing things around the house on weekends. He's the kind of guy who can spend 3 hours getting a crooked door to hang right and then just nod like it was no big deal. My mom, Caroline, is the opposite. She fills silence. She manages. She makes things happen. She also doesn't really know what to do with a daughter who smells like motor oil and owns a business instead of a condo with white furniture and a safe job. The first time my parents met Ethan was on a summer visit. They flew up from Arizona, stayed in a mid-range hotel, and gave commentary on the weather like the Pacific Northwest had personally offended them. We all met at my apartment first. My mom hugged me, pulled back, and gave the place a once-over. "It's cozy," she said, which is mom speak for smaller than the imaginary house I've assigned you in my head. Then I introduced Ethan. He stuck out his hand. "It's really nice to meet you, Mrs. Mercer." Mom tilted her head. "Caroline is fine," she said, then glanced down at his shoes like they were a GPA. We went to dinner at a mid-tier restaurant downtown. White tablecloths, candle in the middle, the kind of place where the music is just loud enough that you can't quite hear the table next to you. "So, Ethan," Mom said, after we'd placed our orders, "what exactly do you do again?" "Network security," he said. "I help companies keep their systems from being breached. A lot of monitoring, incident response, patching holes. Not glamorous, but important." "And that pays well?" she asked, like she was asking about the weather. I felt my shoulders tighten. "It pays fine," I said. "He's good at what he does." Mom smiled like she hadn't just thrown a dart. "I'm just curious, honey. You've worked so hard for your shop. I want to make sure you're compatible." Dad cleared his throat. "Caroline." Ethan took a sip of water, calm. "It pays well, and I'm not planning to retire on Ava's money, if that's what you're worried about." For half a second, I loved him more than I thought was possible. Mom blinked, smiled a little too brightly, and said, "Of course not. Just a mother asking questions." I should have heard the alarm bells right then. Should have seen the way she pinned him with those little tests, filing away every answer for later. But Ethan handled it gracefully, and the rest of the visit stayed surface level. Mom made some comments about my shop, being a lot for a woman to manage long term. Asked if I ever thought about selling. Asked Ethan if he'd support me scaling back once we had kids. I brushed it off, told myself she was just old-fashioned. Tessa rolled her eyes so hard I thought they'd fall out when I told her. "If she tries to sabotage you," Tessa said, half joking, "I'll change her locks." I laughed. I didn't know that 6 months later, my mom would be paying someone else to do exactly that. After that visit, things settled into a rhythm. Ethan moved in after about 18 months together. We'd already spent most nights on one couch or the other. It was a financial and emotional no-brainer. He gave up his little studio, and we cleared half the closet, shuffled his gear in, learned how to share a bathroom without killing each other. He offered to contribute to rent. I reminded him I owned the apartment outright and there was no mortgage. We agreed on utilities and groceries as his share, plus splitting extras. He didn't argue, didn't get weird about it, didn't puff his chest and insist on paying more just to feel like a provider. He just said, "Okay, if anything changes, tell me," and meant it. We got engaged about 2 years in. He proposed on this trail near Mount Hood that I love. It was cold, the kind of sharp air that clears your head. We'd hiked up to this overlook where you can see the trees roll out forever, like a green ocean. He was fidgety the whole way, which I chalked up to work stress, until he stopped, turned to me, and pulled a small box out of his jacket. My brain shorted out. "Ava," he said, voice shaking just enough that I felt it, "I love you. I love that you're stubborn and relentless, and that you smell like engine degreaser half the time. I want to build a life with you. Will you marry me?" The ring was simple. White gold, a clean diamond, exactly my style. Later I found out he'd spent $6,800 on it, which is so Ethan, practical, but willing to invest in what matters. I said yes before he finished the question. The next few months were a blur of wedding Pinterest boards, budget spreadsheets, venue visits squeezed between my service calls and his on-call shifts. We decided on something small, maybe 80 people at a venue near the river. Outdoor, string lights, barbecue instead of plated meals. Nothing that required a dozen seating charts and a monarch's budget. My mom's reaction to the engagement was complicated. On the phone, she sounded thrilled. She screamed. She cried. She asked to see the ring. She immediately started talking about dresses and colors and whether we'd be doing a church ceremony. Underneath all that noise was a sharpness I couldn't quite name. Her questions changed. Are you two combining finances? Is his name going on the deed for the apartment? Are you sure you don't want to slow down and think through all the legal parts? I told her we'd be talking to a lawyer about a prenup. She went quiet. Well, she finally said, at least you're protecting what you've built. Men can get comfortable, especially when they move into something they didn't help create. He has helped, I said, heat creeping up my neck. Just because his name isn't on the deed doesn't mean he hasn't been here. He's been by my side through some rough quarters. I'm just saying, she replied. Divorce is expensive. I don't want to watch you lose half of everything you bled for. It was the way she said lose that bothered me, like Ethan was already standing there with a bag, waiting to take. I told myself she was projecting her own regrets. Her marriage to my dad has always been uneven. He works. She manages. She's never really had something that was entirely hers. But the calls kept coming. Every week or two, there she was on my screen. How's the shop? How's Ethan? Is he still at that same job? Do they pay him enough for a man his age? Have you two talked about who gets what if things go sideways? I'd answer, then hang up and stare at my phone, a knot sitting just under my ribs. I ignored it. I had a business to run, a wedding to plan, a life to hold together. I didn't want to spend my nights psychoanalyzing my mother. In hindsight, that's exactly when she started building her own little conspiracy. When we set the wedding date for the following spring, she went quiet on the phone for a beat too long. That's soon, she said. We've been together 3 years, Mom, I said. It's not like we met last week. Still, she replied, marriage is a big decision, hard to undo. I just want you to be sure before you make a mistake you can't take back. I remember standing in my kitchen, the light over the sink flickering slightly because the ballast was on its last legs, and feeling something cold slide down my spine. I am sure, I said. She didn't argue. She just said, okay, honey, in a tone that clearly meant, no, you're not. Red flag, big one. I shoved it into a mental box labeled, deal with later. Then my birthday rolled around, my 32nd to be exact. Ethan told me we were doing something small, just us, maybe Tessa and Luke. He lied. When I walked into our favorite cafe that Thursday night after closing the shop early, 30 people jumped up and yelled, surprise! I actually stumbled back a step. Streamers, balloons, a cake from the bakery I love with way too much frosting. My mechanics, Tessa and Luke, friends from high school, Ethan's coworkers, people from the parts store. The whole room was packed with faces from different chapters of my life. And then, right on cue, my mom and my sister, Madison, walked in, rolling luggage behind them like some dramatic entrance in a TV show. They had flown in from Arizona just to celebrate. My mom doesn't do surprise birthday visits. She sends cards, texts, maybe a gift card if she remembers in time. Seeing her in that doorway with that bright and too wide smile should have told me everything. Instead, I told myself she was finally trying. I hugged her, hugged Madison, let the noise and food and attention wash over me. I tried to pretend I didn't notice the way my mom kept checking her phone, or the way she kept glancing at Madison, or the way, when she thought I wasn't looking, her mouth tightened like she was waiting for a cue only she could hear. That night was supposed to be about me turning 32. It turned out to be about how far my mother was willing to go to tear my life apart. For the first hour of my birthday party, I managed to ignore the weird energy pulsing off my mom like static. I let Ethan hand me cake, let Tessa brag about how she'd threatened bodily harm if anyone spoiled the surprise, let my mechanics make jokes about how they'd left the shop 5 minutes early to make it on time and hoped I wouldn't dock their pay. It felt good, loud, warm. But every time I glanced toward the back of the cafe, there she was, my mom, hovering near the restrooms, holding her phone like she was waiting for a bomb to go off. She kept whispering to Madison, my sister, not whispering like gossip, whispering like planning. The first time I noticed, they were both looking at Mom's phone screen, eyebrows tense, shoulders stiff. The second time, Madison's eyes flicked in my direction, then away. The third time, Madison walked out. Just walked out. She grabbed her purse, muttered something to Mom, and beelined for the exit, practically sprinting. Ethan was mid-laugh, telling Tessa's husband about a software bug he'd dealt with that week when I put my hand on his arm. I'll be right back, I said. He followed my gaze. Your sister? I nodded. He squeezed my elbow once, subtle, grounding, and let me go. I caught up to Madison just as she reached the door. Hey, I said, breath puffing in front of me. Where are you going? Her hand froze on the handle. Just going to the car. I forgot something. Her voice shook. Madison has always been a bad liar. When we were kids, she'd get a twitch in her cheek every time she tried to cover for sneaking cookies. That same twitch was back now, like she was 10 again. What did you forget? I asked. She swallowed. Just stuff. I'll be right back. I stepped closer. Is something going on? She finally looked at me. Her pupils were blown wide. Her fingers trembled on her purse strap. Her whole face said panic. But before I could press her, she blurted out, Really, Ava, it's nothing. Forced a smile that looked physically painful, and slipped outside. The door clicked shut behind her. I stood there staring after her, the cafe warm behind me, the night air cold on my arms. And for the first time that evening, something inside me whispered, Something's wrong. I went back inside, pasted on a smile, cut the cake, let people hug me. But my eyes kept dragging back to my mom. She kept checking the time, checking her phone, checking the door. She looked tense, but not in the anxious, overwhelmed way, in the waiting for confirmation way. Like she'd set something in motion and was now waiting for the results. The whole thing lasted maybe 5 minutes, but it felt like 2 hours. Finally, the door opened. Madison walked back in. Only she didn't look like someone who'd grabbed something from the car. She looked like someone who'd seen a ghost. Pale, sweating, eyes darting everywhere but at me. She walked straight to Mom, bent down, whispered something into her ear. I was too far away to hear, but close enough to watch my mother's face change shape 3 times. Confusion, panic, and then a sharp, brittle anger. Excuse me, Ava, can I grab you for a moment? Ethan's boss's wife said, waving me over to talk about the venue where we had the party. I forced a polite laugh, nodded, and stepped over. But I kept my eyes on Mom and Madison, the way you watch a small fire in the corner of your vision. Mom grabbed Madison's wrist, her jaw tight, her pupils narrowed. Madison shook her head rapidly, her whole body trembling. I had no idea what was being said, but I could tell one thing. Whatever had happened, it had gone wrong. Spectacularly wrong. Eventually, people started heading out. My parents-in-law left early. My mechanics thanked me for the food. Someone put all the leftover cake in a to-go box for me. When Mom came to say goodbye, she hugged me too tightly. Happy birthday, sweetheart, she said, voice high and brittle. I hope this year brings big changes. Her tone wasn't affectionate. It was triumphant, like she'd already decided what those big changes would be. Madison didn't say much, just waved faintly from near the door and slipped out. Ethan and I stayed behind to help clean up. Tessa joked about stealing one of the balloons. Luke boxed up appetizers we hadn't gotten around to eating. But the moment Ethan closed the passenger door of our truck behind me, he exhaled sharply. So, that was weird, right? He said. I looked at him. Extremely. Your mom kept staring at the door like she was waiting for someone to break in with a mariachi band, he muttered. Or bad news, I said. He glanced over at me. Your sister looked terrified. Yeah, I whispered. I noticed. We drove home with the radio low, the city sliding past us in orange streetlight stripes. At 10:15 p.m., we pulled into our apartment building. I was still replaying Mom's face morphing through 3 stages of crisis when I grabbed the boxes in the back seat, cards, leftover cake, the little gifts people had brought, and started walking toward our door on the 2nd floor. I put the key in the lock, turned it. Nothing. I frowned, tried again. The key wouldn't turn. Ethan, I said. He tried his. Same result. Maybe the deadbolt, he started. That's when I saw them. 3 cardboard boxes, stacked against the wall next to our door, labeled with my handwriting. Items visible through the flaps. Ethan's gaming console, his winter jacket, his shaving kit. My pulse went ice cold. We didn't put those there, Ethan said quietly behind me. I didn't answer, because just then, the door unlocked from the inside, and my mother stepped out into my hallway, holding a spare key to my apartment. Behind her, our wedding photos were gone from the wall, our books rearranged, and Ethan's suitcases packed, waiting by the couch. What the hell did you do? Ethan's voice cracked, not in fear, but betrayal, a raw, wounded sound I'd never heard before. He pushed past me into the apartment, and that's when I saw it. My mom's phone, unlocked, screen lit, a group chat open, a group chat labeled Project Ethan, my mom's number, my sister's number, and a 3rd number I didn't recognize. The last message sent at 8:47 p.m. While everyone's at the party, go change the locks at Ava's apartment. Get his stuff out before they get home. Madison, take care of it now. The message beneath it, from Madison, Mom, you sent this to the wrong Madison. Ethan is standing right here reading everything. In that moment, the air in the apartment snapped, sharp and electric. Ethan turned around, his phone screen glowing with the same message thread. My mom looked frozen, like she'd hit send on a bomb and watched it detonate in her own hands. And all I could think was, what else is in that chat? For a full 5 seconds, no one moved. Not Ethan, not me, not my mother. The only thing in motion was the light from her phone screen, still open on the counter, still displaying the group chat that detonated her entire plan. Then everything hit at once. Ethan inhaled sharply, the kind of breath people take when the world tilts under their feet. My heart started hammering so hard I could feel it in my throat. And my mother, the woman who color codes her spice rack and irons her dish towels, stood frozen like a deer in headlights. Madison was still at the cafe, which meant only one thing. My mother had done this alone. Mom, I said quietly, too quietly. What is this? She blinked like she hadn't heard me, so Ethan answered for her. Ava, he said, voice low, shaking slightly. Your mother tried to evict me. His words sliced the room open. No, Mom snapped, too fast. No, that's not what this is. Ethan pointed to the boxes. Really? Because that looks a lot like my stuff packed up. Mom wrung her hands. This isn't Ava, sweetheart, listen. But her eyes kept flicking to the phone on the counter. Do not touch that phone, her body language screamed. If she reads the rest. Too late. I stepped past her. The closer I got to her phone, the more the screen's glow hit me like a spotlight. A confession. A betrayal. A trap laid in neat little digital rows. I was 3 feet away when Mom lunged. Not aggressively, but in a panicked reach, like she was trying to grab a glass about to fall. Ava, please. I picked up the phone. She stopped moving. Her whole face collapsed. And the first thing I saw? A spreadsheet screenshot, attached to a message Mom had sent to the group chat 2 weeks earlier. A spreadsheet labeled, Timeline, Separation Phase. My stomach dropped so hard I thought I might throw up. Why is there a timeline, I asked. Mom clasped her hands together like she was praying. Honey, you have to understand, this wasn't meant for you. That's the problem, I whispered. Ethan stepped to my side, not touching, but close enough that I felt him there like a wall against a storm. I scrolled, message after message, each one a cut, each one another slice of something I didn't know could bleed. July 28th. Mom, Ethan is too dependent on Ava. She doesn't see it, but he's already comfortable. Amber, you deserve a chance. You two would be perfect together. Amber, a cold thought slammed into my ribs. Amber, as in Ethan's ex, the woman he dated briefly years ago, the one who'd moved to Arizona after her divorce, the one I'd met exactly once. My mother had been messaging Ethan's ex-girlfriend. I scrolled faster. August 12th, Mom. Sending $3,000 for your fresh start? August 28th, Mom. Another $2,500, apartment deposit help. September 15th. Mom, $4,000. Use it to furnish your place. He will appreciate stability. September 30th. Mom, $5,500. Final preparations. The total hit me like a slap. $15,000. My mother had sent Ethan's ex $15,000. Ethan saw the number the same moment I did. His voice cracked. What the hell? My mom rushed forward, palms out like she could push back the truth by sheer willpower. It's my money, she said. I can spend it how I want. It's Dad's money too, I snapped. Did he know you were paying a stranger, my boyfriend's ex, to replace me in my own relationship? Mom's face twisted. Amber isn't a stranger. She's suitable. She has a good head on her shoulders. She's stable. She wouldn't what? I cut in. Own a business? Be independent? Pay her own bills? Not need you to approve her existence every 5 seconds? Ethan put a hand over his face. He wasn't crying, but something deep inside him broke in that moment, and I felt the crack like it split the floor between us. Mom kept talking like she hadn't noticed. Honey, listen, she said, switching to her martyr voice, the one she used growing up when she wanted to guilt us into obedience. I didn't want you to marry someone who would drain you, who would use you, who would... Use me? I repeated, incredulous. Ethan has never used me for anything. Mom shook her head, pitying. You can't see it because you're blinded by love, but moms know. Moms always know. Ethan let out a horrified laugh. You think I'm using Ava? I make my own money. I've always made my own money. I've never asked her for a cent beyond groceries and utilities. Mom jabbed a finger toward the apartment. You live in her place. She owns it, he snapped. I'm not putting my name on her assets because I respect what she built. My mother's lips curled. That's what users say. The silence after that felt like someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the room. Finally, I spoke. What was the plan? Mom stiffened. What, I repeated, was the plan? Walk me through it. Every step. Mom swallowed. I was trying to help you, she whispered. No, I said, calm in a way that terrified even me. You were trying to swap out my boyfriend like defective merchandise. Her chin trembled. I waited. And then, maybe because she was panicking, maybe because she truly believed her own delusion, she told me the truth. All we needed, she said, voice rising, was for Ethan to spend the night away from you. My stomach twisted. The party was supposed to be the distraction, she continued. While everyone was here, Madison was going to come to the apartment with the spare key and change the locks. My jaw dropped. You were going to lock us out of our own home? You would have thought it was Ethan's fault, she said quickly. You'd get angry. He'd stay with a friend. Tessa? I scoffed. You thought Tessa would let this happen? She wouldn't have known, Mom hissed. No one would have. It would have been messy, emotional. That's when Ethan would be vulnerable. That's when Amber would show up. Not pushy, just supportive. Ethan whispered, "Oh my God." I stared at my mother, 32 years old, a business owner, independent, stable, and she still thought she could puppet master my entire life. Amber was supposed to be the rebound? I asked, voice hollow. No, Mom said. She was going to be your replacement. The room spun. Ethan reached for me. I didn't move. Not toward him. Not away. Just froze. Mom rushed forward. But it all went wrong, she cried. Madison didn't follow instructions. She told you texted the wrong Madison, I said. You didn't mean to send the eviction orders to Ethan. You meant to send them to your hit woman. She's not a hit woman, Mom snapped. Really? Because trying to evict my partner from my home looks a lot like attempted character assassination. And anyway, Mom said desperately, you weren't supposed to find out like this. You weren't supposed to get caught, Ethan corrected. Her lips tightened. Then she made her fatal mistake. She said, if you just trusted me. Trusted you? I shouted. You tried to destroy my relationship. Because you're marrying the wrong person. No, I said, ice cold. I'm cutting off the wrong person. Mom's eyes widened. Ava, get out. She blinked. What? Get out. Madison wasn't even here to leave with her. It didn't matter. Take your things, I said. Leave the key. And get the hell out of my home. Mom tried to reach for me. Ethan stepped between us. I'm not letting you touch her, he said. Mom's face twisted into something ugly. The two of you will regret this, she hissed. Then she stormed out, leaving her phone. Her evidence. Her entire plan exposed like a blueprint. I let out a long, shaking breath. But Ethan's voice scared me more than anything that night. Ava, he said, staring at the phone in my hand. Scroll back. So I did. And what we found next made the $15,000 look like pocket change. I thought the money was the worst of it. I thought the 20-something messages, the spreadsheet, the eviction instructions, those were the depths of my mother's madness. I was wrong. So wrong. When Ethan said, scroll back, his voice wasn't angry. It was hollow, like something had been scooped out of him. And I swear, before my thumb even touched the screen, I already felt dread crawling up my spine like cold fingers. The chat logs from July and August were unnerving. But the ones from October? Those were a psychological horror film written in real time. The first message we saw when scrolling back. OCT 29. Mom. He'll be vulnerable and confused when this happens. That's when you step in, Amber. Show him what real partnership looks like. Be his soft place to land. I blinked at the words, then blinked again. Like somehow, the third time, they would rearrange themselves into something less insane. But they didn't. It was like my mother was coaching Ethan's ex on how to emotionally seduce him after a traumatic event she engineered. Ethan grabbed onto the edge of the counter like he needed it to stay upright. He didn't finish the sentence. Couldn't. I scrolled. Mom, a man is easiest to redirect when he feels blindsided. Don't rush. Be patient. Amber, I'm nervous. Mom, don't be. He's always liked you. You were good together before Ava came along. My throat tightened until I could barely speak. Before I came along? There it was, the glowing center of her delusion. She genuinely thought Ethan and Amber had some unfinished destiny that I, inconveniently, stood in the way of. Mom, he never said it, but I could see it. Men like him need nurturing, not competition. Mom, Ava is too independent, too busy. Mom, he needs someone who will prioritize him. I felt like I'd been punched. Not because my mother thought these things, But because Amber responded, Amber, I can do that. Ethan let out a strangled laugh, disbelieving, hurt, furious, all at once. She doesn't even know me, he said. We dated for what? 3 months? Years ago? How can she think? His voice cracked. I put the phone down and wrapped my arms around him. He clutched me like he was drowning, and I held him like I would never let anyone, least of all my mother, sink him again. When we let go, I picked up the phone again because there was more. There was always more. Mom, you'll meet him in Arizona during the cooling off period. Just a casual visit, natural. Amber, should I bring anything? Mom, dress something soft, not business casual, feminine. Ethan pulled a hand down his face. Oh my God. I kept scrolling. Every message was another cut, another twisted strategy session. Mom, when I get him alone, I'll convince him that Ava is unstable, impulsive, not committed. Mom, emotion will do the rest. Mom, it's simple psychology. She said it like she was talking about reheating leftovers, not detonating her daughter's life. Then, the one that made my stomach heave. Mom, once he's out of the apartment, he won't go back. That place ties him to her. That's why the locks have to be changed. I stopped breathing. Ethan leaned in, pointing at the message. Wait, look at the timestamp, he said. It was from August, long before my birthday. Long before the party. Long before any of this seemed possible. She planned it. My voice was barely a whisper. She planned all of it, months ago. Ethan nodded, jaw clenched so hard I could hear his teeth grind. She didn't react, he said. She didn't adapt. She had a plan, a step-by-step plan. I scrolled further up, and there it was, the message that made me feel like the floor beneath me had given way. Dog 3. Mom, Ava won't see this coming. She trusts me. I don't know if I've ever hated a sentence more in my life. The betrayal was so sharp, so intimate, I physically had to put the phone down. Ethan reached over and grabbed it first. What else? He asked, eyes scanning. His face shifted from pale to furious in half a second. He turned the screen toward me. And for a moment, I forgot how to inhale. Dialogue 19. Mom, if Ava resists the breakup, we might need to accelerate. Make her seem unreasonable, overreactive. Amber, how? Mom, we'll find something. Mom, people believe mothers, not girlfriends. My skin went icy. This wasn't sabotage. This wasn't meddling. This was character assassination. Planned, practiced, strategized. Ethan lowered the phone slowly. When he spoke, his voice was low and dangerous. Your mom was willing to destroy your reputation to make me leave you. I didn't answer, because the truth was choking me. She had been willing to destroy me. Her daughter, her blood, her child. Not because Ethan was bad. Not because I was in danger, but because she had decided, completely in her own mind, that Ethan wasn't good enough for me. So she chose someone she thought was. Amber, a woman my mother barely knew. I finally croaked. She wanted to script my entire life. Ethan stepped closer, forehead touching mine. And she failed. I nodded, though the lump in my throat felt like a jagged stone. Then I remembered something. Mom tried to stop me from taking her phone, I whispered. Ethan nodded. Because this, he gestured to the screen, is damning. He wasn't wrong. Every message was a confession. And then, a soft vibration. The group chat lit up again. Mom, Ava, listen to me. Please, don't overreact. We can fix this. Ethan snorted. Fix? I lifted the phone so I could type back. My fingers shook, but the words did not. Ava, we're done. Do not contact me again. Leave the key. Seconds later, another message popped up. Mom, if you walk away from me, you're throwing away your entire future. I stared at that. My future. Like she owned it. Like she could take it away. Ethan leaned in again. She never knew your future wasn't hers to manage. I swallowed hard, set her phone down, and took a long, shaking breath. Then I knew. It was time to call Tessa. Within 20 minutes, she arrived at our apartment in sweatpants, hair up, toolbox in hand, like she was gearing up for a home invasion. Actually, in a way, she was. What the hell happened? She demanded, stepping inside and taking in the boxes, the open chat, Ethan's pale face, my shaking hands. In 10 minutes, we had explained everything. Her response? Oh, we're changing these locks right now. I blinked, like we have to, at this hour? She tossed me a deadbolt. Ava, your mother copied a spare key. Stage 1 of crazy. Stage 2 is showing up at 3 a.m. to deliver unsolicited advice and possibly a casserole. Ethan snorted. It was the first time he'd laughed all night. It broke something inside me in the best possible way. So the three of us got to work. At 1:40 a.m., Ethan held a flashlight. At 1:42 a.m., I handed Tessa screws. At 1:58 a.m., the old lock came off. At 2:10 a.m., the new deadbolt clicked into place. At 2:12 a.m., Tessa bagged the old lock like it was evidence, which, technically, it was. When we were done, Tessa wiped her forehead dramatically. "There," she said. "Now no one gets in except the people you choose." She picked up my mom's phone. "You want me to smash this?" I actually considered it, but instead I shook my head. "No. No. We need it." "For what?" Tessa asked. I exchanged a look with Ethan. "For a lawyer," he said quietly. Tessa's jaw set. "Good." The last thing she said before leaving, "Ava, listen to me carefully. You didn't do this. She did. Don't you dare carry the weight of her decisions." But even as she closed the door behind her, and the new deadbolt clicked solidly into place, I knew this wasn't over, not by a long shot. Because in the morning, I had to confront my mother. And I was bringing the evidence with me. I didn't sleep that night. Not even for a minute. Ethan tried. God, he tried. He kept brushing his thumb over my knuckles, tracing circles on the back of my hand, telling me it would be okay. But I could feel the tension in his body. The way he kept glancing toward the door, even though the new deadbolt was solid and gleaming and undeniably ours. At 5:30 a.m., I finally gave up pretending. "I'm going to confront her," I said quietly. Ethan sat up immediately. "Ava, are you sure you want to do that alone?" "I'm not doing this alone," I said, grabbing my laptop. "I'm taking every piece of evidence with me." And I did. Every message, every bank transfer, every photo she sent Amber, every coaching line, every timestamp. I spent 3 hours assembling a digital dossier that would terrify even the calmest person. At 9 o'clock a.m., I loaded it onto a thumb drive. At 9:10, I texted my mother one line. "Meet me in the lobby of your hotel. 20 minutes. She replied instantly. "Ava, please don't be dramatic." I stared at the screen, numb. Dramatic. The word felt like slapped paint over a cracked wall. "Let's go," Ethan said, grabbing his jacket. "No," I said softly. "I need to do this myself." He hesitated, jaw hard. "Ava, she hurt you. She hurt us. I'm not letting her—" I touched his cheek. "You already protected me," I whispered. "Last night. Today. I need to hear the lies fall apart with my own ears." He searched my face, then nodded. "I'll be outside," he said, "right downstairs. You text me and I'm there in 30 seconds. I smiled, barely, but it was real. "I know." The hotel lobby. The Embassy Suites lobby smelled like overbrewed coffee and the kind of carpet cleaner they use to hide old mistakes. My mother sat at a round table near the restaurant area, ankles crossed, shoulders rigid, face pinched with nerves she was trying and failing to hide. When I approached, she stood, arms opening for a hug. I raised a hand, stopped her cold. "We're not doing that," I said. Her expression flickered. "Ava, sweetheart, I know last night was upsetting, but I think once we talk—" I reached into my bag, set my phone on the table. "Hit record." She recoiled. "Ava, that's exactly what this needs," I said. "Truth and documentation." She sat back down slowly. I sat across from her. The silence between us was sharp enough to cut. "Start talking," I said. She took a shaky breath. "I was trying to help you." "That's not an explanation," I said. "That's a slogan." Her face tightened. "You don't understand the position you're in, Ava. You're vulnerable." "Vulnerable?" I repeated. "I own my home. I own my business. I pay my bills. I support myself. How am I vulnerable?" Her voice sharpened. "Because you're marrying the wrong man." There it was. The core of her delusion. "Explain how Ethan is the wrong man," I said. "And please, give me specifics, not your intuition. Facts." She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Well, he lives in your place." "That's because I bought it," I said. "Not because he's freeloading. He should contribute more." "He offered," I said evenly. "I said no, because I own the mortgage-free asset and I manage the finances strategically, not him." "He should insist," she snapped. I blinked. "So you want him to override my financial boundaries to prove he's not using me?" She paused, thrown off. "Men," she said slowly, "should provide." My jaw tightened. "That's not our dynamic." "Exactly," she said, slapping her palm on the table. "He's too passive." "He's steady," I corrected. "He respects me." She scoffed. "You think that's respect?" she said. "He's letting you run everything. You think that's love, but it's convenience. He has everything he needs without lifting a finger. You're setting yourself up to be taken advantage of." I stared at her. This entire catastrophe stemmed from one fundamental flaw. She couldn't stand that I was the strong one, that I was the provider, that I didn't need rescuing. So she invented a villain and hired a replacement. Let's talk about Amber, I said. Her mouth snapped shut. Ava, why did you send her $15,000? She lifted her chin proudly. I wanted her to be ready. For what? For when Ethan realized he deserved better. The words hit me like a punch. Not because she said Ethan deserved better, but because she believed it so deeply that she spent thousands of dollars and 3 months orchestrating a psychological ambush. I leaned forward. You manipulated a vulnerable woman who had just gotten divorced. You fed her lies about me. You coached her on how to seduce Ethan when he was heartbroken. You planned to strand Ethan outside our apartment. You planned to gaslight him into thinking I was the problem. Her face twisted. I was protecting you. You were destroying me, I said. She flinched. But then her expression hardened. Ava, she said, voice eerily calm, I know what's best for you. You think you're strong, but you're still a child in so many ways. You don't understand men. You don't understand relationships. You don't understand... Stop talking, I said. She shut her mouth. I pulled out the thumb drive. Set it between us. This, I said, is every screenshot, every transfer, every message, every time you lied, every time you strategized, every time you tried to ruin my life. Her lip trembled. That's excessive. No, I said, it's evidence. For what? She whispered. For whatever comes next. Her face went pale. Ava, please, you're my daughter. And you should have acted like my mother, I said. Her eyes filled with tears. But her mouth? It didn't apologize. It hardened. You'll forgive me eventually, she whispered. You always do. My heart cracked, not in sadness, in clarity. No, I said softly, not this time. I stood. She reached out instinctively. I stepped back. This is the last time we speak, I said. If you contact me or Ethan again, my lawyer will handle it. Ava. Goodbye, Mom. And I walked out. I didn't look back. In the car, Ethan was sitting in the truck, hands on the steering wheel. He looked at me carefully. What happened? I exhaled a long, shaking breath. It's over, I said. He nodded once. Then he reached out and took my hand. Not possessively. Not desperately. Just there. And for the first time in 24 hours, I realized something. My mother's delusion didn't break us. It revealed us. Revealed who we were together. Who we were against the world. Who we were when everything fell apart. We're going to be okay, Ethan said. I squeezed his hand. We are. But I knew even then. The fallout hadn't even begun. Because the next phone call would change everything. I expected silence. I expected at least a day, maybe 2, before the next wave hit. Some small pocket of stillness where I could breathe, process, maybe cry into Ethan's sweatshirt while he rubbed slow circles on my back. But the universe wasn't giving us a break. Not after what my mother had done. We were barely home, Ethan carrying a bag of takeout neither of us had the appetite for, when my phone rang. Dad! I froze. Ethan turned, reading my expression instantly. Do you want me to get that? I shook my head. No, I need to hear his voice. I answered. Hi, Dad. There was no greeting on the other end. No small talk, just the sound of my father inhaling shakily and saying, Ava, your mother told me everything. My knees nearly gave out. I sat on the arm of the couch, gripping the phone like it might vanish. What did she tell you? I whispered. That she was protecting you. My father's voice cracked in a quiet, contained way that hurt more than shouting ever could. That she had to intervene. That she had to save you from a mistake. I closed my eyes. Dad, he exhaled again, long, shaking, defeated. She said you're ungrateful for not appreciating what she did. Typical. So painfully typical. What did you say to her? I asked. He was silent a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was steadier. I asked her if she realized she wasn't protecting you. She was destroying you. A tear rolled down my cheek. She didn't deny anything, he said. Not a word. I bit the inside of my cheek until I tasted blood. Dad, I whispered, she spent $15,000 paying Ethan's ex to... I know, he said quietly. She admitted it. I didn't expect my next question to fall out so fast. Are you okay? Another silence. Not angry. Not shocked. Just tired. No, he said honestly. I'm not okay, and I don't think I have been for a very long time. My heart cracked. You're not responsible for this, I said. She hid things from you, too. He made a small, hollow sound that might have been a laugh. Your mother has been hiding things from me for years, he said. I just didn't want to believe it. I wiped my cheeks with the back of my hand. Dad, if you need anything, he cut it softly. I'm filing for divorce. I went completely still. You are? Yes. Dad, I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. No, I said firmly. This wasn't your fault. He didn't respond, but his breathing steadied. Take care of yourself, he said finally, and take care of Ethan. I will. And Ava? Yeah? You did the right thing walking away. I closed my eyes. For the first time since the night before, something inside me loosened, just a tiny bit. Thank you, Dad. We hung up, and I sat there letting the quiet settle. Ethan knelt in front of me, hands on my knees, eyes searching my face. What happened? I let out a shuddering breath. My dad, he's done. He's divorcing her. Ethan blinked, stunned. Because of this? Because of everything, I said. Because she's been lying to him too. He pulled me into his arms. I sank into him. For a few minutes, there was nothing but the sound of his heartbeat against my cheek and the weight of his hand on the back of my head. Then, because apparently fate had a sense of timing, the doorbell buzzed. Once, then twice. Ethan stiffened. Stay here. No, I said, standing with him. We face everything together. He nodded. We walked to the door. He looked through the peephole, then let out a low, incredulous sound. It's your sister. My stomach lurched. Madison? It looks like she's been crying. I opened the door slowly. She stood there, makeup streaked, knuckles red from rubbing at her face, hair messy like she'd been tugging on it. Ava, she said, voice cracking the moment she saw me. Please, can I talk to you? I stepped aside. She walked in with the tremble of someone holding herself together with tape. Ethan gave her space, but stayed within arm's reach of me. Madison sat on the couch, knees pulled together, hands twisting. She looked at me, really looked at me, and then she broke. I'm sorry, she sobbed. I'm so sorry. I sat down beside her. Madison, I said gently, tell me what happened. She covered her face. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. Mom told me I was just supposed to check on the apartment, make sure everything was okay. She didn't say I was supposed to pack Ethan's things. She didn't say she gave Amber money. She didn't tell me any of this. My jaw tightened. Then why did you go along with it? I thought she was worried, Madison cried. I thought you two were having problems and she wanted me to help mediate or something. But then at the party, she handed me the spare key. She told me to go, to hurry. And when I got to the door, she choked. I panicked. I couldn't do it. I couldn't open the door. I got in my car and just sat there. Mom kept texting me, telling me to hurry, telling me not to overthink it. And then she looked at Ethan. She sent the message to the wrong Madison. Ethan swallowed hard. Yeah, he said quietly. We saw. Madison pressed her hands against her eyes. When I realized, God, Ava, when I saw that she'd accidentally messaged Ethan instead of me, I ran back inside. I told her she'd messed up. She freaked out. I didn't know what to do. She turned to me then, eyes red, voice trembling. Ava, I'm so sorry I didn't see the truth sooner. I held her gaze. Madison wasn't my mother. She wasn't innocent, but she wasn't malicious either. She was another casualty of Mom's manipulation. I took her hand. We'll figure this out, I said softly. She burst into tears again. Ethan squeezed my shoulder gently, a quiet, grounding presence. Madison wiped her face. What are you going to do now? That answer came easily. We're documenting everything, I said. And tomorrow I'm meeting with a lawyer. Madison nodded. She didn't argue, didn't defend Mom, didn't say it was too extreme. She just whispered, Do you want me to testify if you need me? I blinked. I hadn't expected that. But the sincerity in her voice was unmistakable. Yes, I said quietly, if it comes to that. Madison stood slowly. I should go, she said. I need to think. I walked her to the door. She hugged me, tight, desperate, trembling. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, I said. But you need to set boundaries with her, hard ones. She nodded. I know. When she left, Ethan locked the door. And for the first time since the chaos began, I felt the faintest flicker of something I hadn't felt in 24 hours. Hope. But that hope wouldn't last long. Because the next day, when Ethan and I got on a plane to Arizona, we met Amber, and she had her own truths to confess. The flight to Arizona felt like sitting inside a pressurized bruise. Ethan wasn't talking much, not out of anger, out of exhaustion, out of emotional whiplash, out of being forced into a nightmare neither of us signed up for. I held his hand the whole way there. He held on to me like I was an anchor. Neither of us said the thing we were both thinking. What if Amber lies? What if she backs up my mother? What if she tries to worm her way back into Ethan's life? We didn't say it because the truth was already loud enough. This needed to end. At the source. We landed in Phoenix at 8:02 p.m., rented a car, and drove straight to the Scottsdale address Madison had given me. The entire drive was hot, dry, and surreal. Like the desert itself was holding its breath. Amber lived in one of those brand new apartment complexes with neon-lit pool areas, a modern gym, coded entry, and monthly rent that screamed someone recently got a cash infusion. As we approached the building, Ethan's grip on the steering wheel tightened. "You ready?" I asked quietly. "No," he said honestly, "but I'm going anyway." I nodded. We waited until someone exited, then slipped through the door before it locked. Unit 3 third floor. Amber's apartment was at the end of the hallway. I knocked. 3 seconds. 5. 10. Then the door opened a crack. Amber stood there, and for a moment no one spoke. She looked exactly as I remembered from that barbecue years ago. Soft features, long dark hair, nervous smile. Except now, the nerves weren't cute. They were raw. "Ethan?" she whispered, eyes going wide. Then she saw me, and her face drained so fast I wondered if she might faint. "Ava," she breathed. I didn't think you'd actually..." Her voice cut off like someone unplugged her. "We need to talk," I said evenly. "Then we'll leave you alone, forever." She swallowed, nodded, opened the door wider. We stepped inside. Amber's apartment. The place was nice. Too nice. New furniture, new rugs, modern lighting, a tasteful art print on the wall. If I hadn't already seen the bank transfers, the decor alone would have told me exactly where my mother's $15,000 went. Amber didn't sit. She stayed standing, arms wrapped around herself, like she needed to hold in all the pieces before they fell apart. Ethan stood next to me, shoulders squared. I got straight to the point. "When did my mother contact you?" Amber winced. "July." Ethan let out a small, pained sound. "And what did she say?" I pressed. Amber took a deep breath, bracing herself. "She said you two were struggling." Her eyes darted to Ethan. "She told me you were unhappy, that you confided in her, that you didn't know how to end things." Ethan looked stunned. "I know," Amber said quickly. "I know that now." She wiped a shaking hand over her forehead. "She told me Ava didn't make you a priority, that you were exhausted and overworked and desperate for a partner who saw you." I blinked hard. My mother. Weaponizing empathy. Classic. Amber continued, voice trembling. "She said you always looked happier with me, that she saw something between us when we met at that barbecue years ago. She said I was the kind of woman who could stabilize you." Ethan stared at her like she'd spoken in another language. "I barely knew you," he said. "Not cruel, just stunned. We dated for a few months. You don't even know my middle name." Amber swallowed. "I know that now," she repeated. "I didn't then." Her eyes filled with tears. "She told me you'd be coming to Arizona after the breakup. She made it sound like everything was set in motion, like I just needed to be there." I stepped closer. "What about the money?" Amber flinched. "I didn't ask for it," she said quickly. "She offered. She said it was for rent, for the deposits, for me to start fresh. She said you'd be moving in soon, and she wanted you to have a comfortable place." I stared at her. "You accepted $15,000. She winced. "It was stupid. I know. I was vulnerable. I'd just gotten divorced. I had nothing. Your mom sounded so sincere. I thought..." She broke off, shaking. "I thought I was helping." Ethan's voice sharpened. "Helping who?" Amber's breath hitched. "A woman who sounded like she'd do anything for her daughter," she whispered. And there it was. Amber wasn't the villain. She was the tool, the puppet, the perfect candidate for manipulation. Recently divorced, financially strained, emotionally unstable, and more than anything, looking for direction. My mother didn't just exploit that. She engineered it. Still, there was one thing Amber said that I needed to hear. "Did you ever intend to actually sleep with him?" I asked, point blank. Amber's eyes flew wide. "No, God, no. I liked him, years ago. But the more your mom talked, the more something felt off. I started getting scared. She was obsessive, controlling. She'd message at midnight and coaching me on what to say, how to dress, how to act." A tear slid down her cheek. "I didn't know how to get out. I didn't want to make her angry." Ethan exhaled, long and shaky. "And then," Amber whispered, "your mother told me the breakup would happen on your birthday, that she and Madison would be there, that she'd call me when Ethan was ready." I clenched my fists. "So why didn't you come?" Ethan asked. Amber looked at him helplessly. "Because I realized something was wrong way too late. Because I felt trapped. Because I'd already accepted the money and didn't know how to escape. Because your mother scared me." I held her gaze. "Amber, you took the money. You planned to step into my relationship. You participated in something that could have devastated us." She nodded, tears falling. "I know," she whispered. "I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm just telling you the truth. For a long moment, none of us spoke. Then Ethan said softly, "What happens now?" Amber shrugged weakly. "I'll return what I can. I spent some on furniture. I'm sorry. I know that doesn't help, but I'm sorry." "Keep it," Ethan said quietly. Amber blinked. "What?" "You keep it," he said. "Buy therapy. Buy groceries. Buy curtains. Just stay the hell out of our life. For good." Amber nodded, jaw quivering. "I will. I swear." I stared at her a moment longer, then said the final words she would ever hear from me. "This ends here." She swallowed. "Yeah," she whispered. "It does." We left without another word. Return flight. We got on the red-eye back to Portland. Ethan leaned his head on my shoulder. I leaned mine on his. We didn't talk. Didn't need to. Everything had been said. Everything had been exposed. But the fallout would keep rippling. When we landed and switched our phones off airplane mode, both buzzed relentlessly. Texts from friends checking on us, and one from an unknown number. Ethan showed me his. "What do you think?" he asked. The message said, "You ungrateful children have no idea what sacrifices I made. This isn't over." I didn't respond. I just handed the phone back. "No more arguing," I said. "No more explaining. No more giving her the benefit of the doubt." Ethan nodded slowly. "What now?" "Now?" Now I was done letting anyone, even my own mother, write the script of my life. "We get a lawyer," I said, "and we protect everything we've built." I expected the fallout to slow down. I thought confronting my mother, meeting Amber, and seeing the full scope of the manipulation would be the climax, the peak of the insanity. But the reality? The next 6 months were a slow, grinding avalanche of consequences. Not for me, not for Ethan, for her, for the person who orchestrated the entire disaster. And in a way, watching the aftermath unfold was the final confirmation I needed. I had been right to cut her out. 2 weeks after Arizona, Ethan and I sat down with my lawyer, Peter, the same one who structured the contracts for my shop. He was blunt. "You have more than enough evidence for a restraining order," he said, flipping through the folder like he was reading a bedtime story. "Frankly, this is one of the most thorough documentation jobs I've ever seen." "That's because Tessa was in charge of indexing," I said. Ethan snorted. Peter continued, "Changing your locks without permission, orchestrating an eviction, attempting to manipulate your partner into leaving, transferring funds to your partner's ex to facilitate a breakup. That's harassment, coercion, and potentially identity theft if she copied your key under false pretenses." I swallowed. "So what now?" "You stay no contact," Peter said. "You log everything. If she tries again, we escalate." And that became our routine. The attempts. Over the next few months, my mother attempted to contact us 47 times. I logged each one. She tried. New phone numbers, new email accounts, handwritten letters, packages left at my shop, voicemails from unfamiliar area codes, a bouquet with a note saying, "You're confused, I forgive you." But the worst? She showed up at my shop. In the middle of business hours. I was under a semi, checking a transmission leak when my mechanic yelled, "Ava, you might want to come out here." I slid out on the creeper, grease on my forearms, hair tied back, face sweaty. And there she was. My mother, standing in the middle of the garage bay like she owned the place. She wore heels, a cream blouse, diamond earrings. She looked like she was arriving for a PTA meeting, not barreling into the workplace of the daughter she tried to betray. "Ava," she said, voice trembling with righteous indignation, "we need to talk." I didn't even stand all the way up. I just looked at my apprentice and said, "Call the police." Mom gasped. "You wouldn't dare." I ignored her. Went back under the truck. She sputtered. She cried. She accused. She begged. She shouted. She even tried to touch my boot under the truck. Ethan gently but firmly stepped between us, making sure she never got close. When my apprentice said, "Police are on their way," she finally fled. I watched her heels click across the concrete. And for the first time in my life, I felt nothing. No guilt. No fear. Just the clarity that comes from knowing someone has permanently crossed a line. Madison moves away. 3 months after everything went down, my sister called. She was whispering, like she didn't want Mom to overhear. "Ava, I moved to Seattle," she said. "I got a job at a pediatric dental office. I'm starting over." I blinked. "Wow, that's big." "It is," she whispered. "I'm in therapy now. I'm realizing how much control she had over my life, too." I softened. "Madison, I'm proud of you," she cried. And for the first time in years, the tears weren't guilt or distress. They were relief. Dad's new life. Dad finalized the divorce within 4 months. 36 years of marriage. Gone because Mom refused to acknowledge she'd done anything wrong. He moved into a condo 20 minutes from us. Started going to therapy twice a week. He started coming to my shop sometimes just to hang out. We'd drink coffee. He'd watch me work. And he'd say things like, "You remind me of your grandfather. Stubborn as hell, but always right." There was peace in him, a peace I had never seen before. Ethan and me. People kept asking us if something like this shook our relationship, if we doubted each other, if we cracked under the pressure. But the truth? It made us stronger. Ethan never blamed me, never questioned me, never asked why I didn't see it coming. He saw the situation for what it was, my mother's obsession, not my failure. We got married quietly, a courthouse ceremony, just Tessa and Luke as witnesses. No dress code, no venue, no drama. Just vows, rings, and a deep mutual promise. We protect what we build, no matter what. We'll have a bigger celebration someday, maybe. But for now, this was enough. More than enough. 6 months in, after everything settled just enough to breathe, I posted our story anonymously on Reddit. It blew up. Fast. People couldn't believe the lengths my mother went to. Some said she sounded like a movie villain. Others said she needed therapy. Some joked she was living out a reverse parent trap fantasy. Ethan read the comments with me, laughing at the ridiculous ones. His favorite was, "Your mom sent the delete boyfriend instructions to the boyfriend. That's advanced stupid." He laughed so hard he spilled coffee. For the first time in months. I laughed too. The epilogue I never expected. A few days after the post went viral, Ethan walked into our apartment holding his phone out. You need to see this." It was a message from my mother's former best friend, Linda, a woman I hadn't spoken to since I was a teenager. Her message read, "Your mother has been bragging about this for months at book club. We all thought she was being dramatic. I'm so sorry." Apparently, after my post, their entire social circle realized Mom actually followed through with the insane plan she'd described. They labeled her unwell. Some blocked her. Some confronted her. Some simply stepped away. Mom is now socially isolated in her little Arizona bubble. She did that to herself. Tonight, as I write this, the apartment is quiet. Warm lamplight. Ethan reading on the couch. Our dog asleep with his head on Ethan's thigh. The air calm in a way my mother would never understand. I close my laptop, sit beside my husband, and know, deep in my bones, that my mother tried to destroy something she never bothered to understand. She thought she could fix a life that wasn't broken. She thought she could control a future that wasn't hers. And she learned, finally, irrevocably, she has no power over the woman I chose to become. This peace, this home, this marriage, she will never touch it again.